The thermometer outside our kitchen window was stuck at a stubborn 32 degrees Celsius, much like my sanity felt stuck at precariously balanced. It was the kind of summer heat that didn't just warm the air, it stewed it, thickening it with the collective anxiety of 1,000 unread emails, a mountain of laundry, and the faint yet persistent scent of something vaguely cheesy originating from the vicinity of our 2-year-old Leo. I'm Nick, 37 years old, a number that sounds perfectly reasonable until you apply it to a man simultaneously attempting to negotiate a truce between a 4-year-old, Maya, respond to an urgent email from work, explain to his mother why she can't pack her entire collection of porcelain thimbles for a 2-week trip, and reassure his wife, Jane, that yes, we will survive this European vacation planning. The vacation of the vacation. It had started innocently enough, a casual suggestion from my parents during a Sunday lunch that somehow escalated into a full-blown family expedition. My parents, bless their cotton socks, envisioned a grand tour, picturesque villages, historic landmarks, leisurely meals. My siblings, Sarah, my older sister, the perpetually organized one, and Tom, my younger brother, the perpetually disorganized one, were easily swayed by the allure of Instagrammable moments and someone else doing the planning, which inevitably meant me and Jane. Jane, ever the optimist with a streak of realistic dread, saw potential for family bonding provided we didn't end up in an international incident involving a runaway toddler and a priceless antique vase. I, meanwhile, saw a 2-week stretch of sustained high-level chaos, but with a different backdrop. Nick, Jane's voice, usually a bomb, now had the sharp edge of a freshly sharpened butter knife. Did you remember to book the extra-large cot for Leo, the one that looks like a miniature prison cell, just like we discussed? I winced. About that, honey. I clicked confirm on the booking, but I didn't see an option for a child-proof fortress with sound-dampening walls. Jane sighed, a sound that could curdle milk. She was currently attempting to fold a fitted sheet, an endeavor that often ended in tears, hers or the sheet's. It's fine, Nick. We'll just pray the hotel has a secure broom closet he can sleep in. That was the humor of our lives, the gallows humor that kept us from dissolving into puddles of parental despair. 2 small children, 2 demanding careers, 3 opinionated siblings, and 2 well-meaning but utterly overwhelming parents. It was less a life and more a human-sized game of Jenga. Every block we pulled, every decision we made, risked toppling the entire structure. And now we were adding the ultimate stress test, a multi-generational transcontinental vacation. The first family meeting was a legendary disaster, earning its place in the annals of family folklore right next to the Great Christmas Ham debacle of '09. We gathered at my parents' house, a place where time seemed to slow down, and every surface was adorned with some relic of my childhood, usually a poorly drawn crayon masterpiece or a photo of me with questionable bangs. So, my dad boomed, adjusting his spectacles, Europe, what's the consensus? Mountains, beaches, cultural immersion? Maya, bless her heart, immediately chimed in, I want to see princesses. Leo, in solidarity, banged his sippy cup against the table, a rhythmic, insistent beat. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, whipped out a meticulously color-coded spreadsheet. I've drafted a preliminary itinerary for Italy, Florence, Rome, Venice. It's efficient, minimizes travel time between major sites, and allows for structured learning experiences. Tom, who had arrived 20 minutes late, promptly spilled his coffee on Sarah's pristine spreadsheet. Oops, my bad. Italy, huh? Is that where they have the good pizza? My mom, who had a habit of drifting in and out of conversation, suddenly piped up. Oh, I heard about a lovely little B&B in the Swiss Alps. They have cows with bells. Don't you just love cows, Nick? I cleared my throat, trying to regain control. Okay, everyone, let's take a breath. Jane and I were thinking maybe something a little more low-key, considering the kids. A single base, perhaps? Or maybe 2 cities maximum? My dad scoffed good-naturedly. "Nonsense, Nicholas. This is Europe. You don't go to Europe to sit still. This is about broadening horizons, cultural enrichment." "His horizons will be broadened by the in-flight entertainment system, Dad," Jane muttered under her breath, giving me a weary smile. The meeting devolved into a cacophony of competing desires. Ancient ruins versus theme parks, Michelin-star dining versus kid-friendly cafes, rigorous sightseeing versus leisurely naps. My mom was convinced we needed to pack an emergency medical kit the size of a small suitcase, while Tom was already Googling the best nightlife in Barcelona, a city no one else had even mentioned. "But what about Leo's nap schedule?" Jane finally interjected, her voice cutting through the noise. "He still needs 2 hours, and if he doesn't get it, he becomes a tiny, screaming gremlin." My mom waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, he'll adjust. Children are resilient. Why, when you were his age, Nicholas, you slept anywhere, on a park bench, in a laundry basket." I distinctly remembered neither of those scenarios. But then again, memories are often embellished by the rosy glow of parental nostalgia. The next few weeks were a blur of WhatsApp groups pinging incessantly, emails multiplying like gremlins after midnight, and phone calls that always seemed to catch me mid-diaper change. The European family adventure had become a hydra-headed monster, each head demanding attention, each decision spawning 3 more. Jane and I found ourselves in a constant state of negotiation, not just with the extended family, but with each other. "You said you'd call the airline about the car seat policy," she'd exclaim, just as I was wrestling Maya into her car seat for daycare. "And I thought you were researching stroller rentals," I'd counter, as Leo smeared avocado all over the freshly cleaned floor. The kids, oblivious to the grand logistical ballet happening around them, added their own layer of exquisite torment. Maya, with her boundless energy and insatiable curiosity, would ask why approximately 700 times a day, often about highly complex geopolitical issues or the structural integrity of a cardboard box. Leo, meanwhile, communicated primarily through a series of guttural grunts, enthusiastic drooling, and the occasional deafening shriek that could shatter glass. One particularly memorable evening, as Jane tried to finalize hotel bookings and I attempted to pack a single carry-on bag without violating international laws of physics, Maya decided it was the perfect time to give Leo a haircut with safety scissors. The result was a shockingly uneven bald patch on Leo's head and a flurry of panic-induced laughter from Jane and me. "Well," Jane managed between giggles, "at least he won't get heat stroke on the plane." The humor, it turned out, was our secret weapon. It was the only thing that kept us from screaming into the void of endless packing lists and passive-aggressive family texts. We'd look at each other, utterly exhausted, and one of us would just start laughing at the sheer absurdity of it all. The idea of us, 2 adults barely keeping our heads above water in our own home, conquering foreign lands with 2 human tornadoes in tow, was truly comedic gold. My parents, though sometimes overwhelming, had their moments of pure gold too. My dad, after listening to an hour of debate about train versus bus versus rental car, simply declared, "We'll take a taxi. Everywhere. My treat." A moment of blissful simplicity in the maelstrom. My mom, despite her thimble obsession, unexpectedly showed up with a giant bag of travel-sized toiletries and a stack of coloring books for the kids. "For the plane, dear," she said, winking, "and perhaps for your sanity." The day of departure arrived, a chaotic symphony of last-minute bathroom breaks, frantic searches for Leo's favorite stuffed monkey, and a tense standoff with the luggage scale. My brother Tom miraculously showed up on time, though he promptly knocked over a potted plant with his oversized backpack. Sarah, ever the diligent one, had printed out detailed boarding passes for everyone, laminated them, and organized them into individual lanyards. "Just in case," she announced, "there's a sudden need for verification of identity in a foreign land." "We're going to the airport, Sarah, not a black ops mission," I mumbled, trying to coax Leo's shoes onto his stubbornly uncooperative feet. The flight itself was a blur of tiny human drama. Maya, convinced the seatbelt sign was a personal affront, demanded constant entertainment. Leo, having consumed a suspicious amount of airplane crackers, spent a good hour making loud, joyful noises that sounded suspiciously like a dying walrus. Jane, bless her heart, had managed to sleep for 15 minutes. I, meanwhile, had perfected the art of drinking lukewarm coffee while simultaneously holding a squirming toddler with one arm and fending off inquisitive pokes from the 4-year-old with the other. As we finally stumbled off the plane in Rome, jet-lagged and disoriented, a new challenge presented itself. The taxi stand was a labyrinth of people, the air thick with unfamiliar languages and the oppressive summer heat. My dad, attempting to communicate with a taxi driver using an alarming combination of hand gestures and loud English, seemed to be making no progress. My mom, meanwhile, was already fanning herself with a crumpled map of the Colosseum. Suddenly, Leo let out a shriek, not a walrus shriek, but a full-blown "I'm about to lose my mind in this foreign land" shriek. Maya, sensing weakness, decided this was the opportune moment to declare, at the top of her lungs, that she had to poo-poo right now. Jane looked at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of despair and hilarity. My siblings, who had initially been trying to look sophisticated and worldly, now looked utterly bewildered. This was it, the breaking point, the moment where all the stress, all the planning, all the lost sleep coalesced into one magnificent, humiliating public meltdown. And then something wonderful happened. My dad, who had been arguing with the taxi driver, suddenly stopped. He turned around, saw Leo shrieking, Maya doing her potty dance, and Jane and me looking like drowned rats. He just started to laugh. A deep, hearty, infectious laugh that cut through the chaos. My mom, initially startled, joined in. Sarah, after a moment of rigid hesitation, cracked a smile. Even Tom, who usually maintained a detached coolness, let out a snort of amusement. Jane and I, initially mortified, looked at each other. Then, against our better judgment, we started laughing too. It was a laugh of pure, unadulterated relief. A laugh that acknowledged the sheer absurdity of our situation, the beautiful, messy, undeniable reality of family. My dad, still chuckling, walked over, put an arm around me and squeezed my shoulder. "Nicholas, my boy," he said, wiping a tear from his eye, "this is what it's all about, isn't it? The memories, the experiences." He winked, "even the poopy ones." That moment, standing there amidst the Roman chaos, changed everything. The grand European vacation was still a logistical nightmare, of course. There were still missed connections, lost toys, and more gelato than any human should consume. But the underlying tension had dissipated. The humor returned, no longer just a coping mechanism, but a genuine expression of our shared journey. My parents, for all their quirks, were there. My siblings, for all their eccentricities, had our backs. And my Jane, my incredible Jane, was my rock, my co-conspirator in this wild adventure called life. We made it to the hotel eventually. The kids, miraculously, settled down. That night, as the Roman lights twinkled outside our window and Jane finally drifted off to sleep, I looked at my 2 sleeping children nestled in their temporary cots. They were messy, demanding, and utterly perfect. Life with them, with Jane, with my parents and siblings was a constant juggling act, a high-wire performance without a net. It was exhausting, overwhelming, and utterly chaotic. But as I sat there, listening to the gentle hum of the foreign city and the soft breathing of my family, I realized something profound. It was also, undeniably, the most extraordinary, hilarious, and deeply compassionate adventure I could ever ask for. And that, I decided, was the true European experience.